Alright, so just hopefully a quick video on my thoughts of God and the afterlife. So first, I ricochet constantly between thinking there is a God and thinking there is not a God. Um, Most of the time, I think it's inherently obvious that there is a God or a superior supernatural being or beings. Um, but then it's like, why the silence? Like, why do all the things happen the way they do? So I would say like 50.1% of the time I believe, and 49.9% of the time I don't believe. But if you had to pin me down, I would probably say that there is a God or some supernatural being. Some qualities that I think God probably has. Um, so I think God has to be caring. I think that's my only like. It has to be. There's no wiggle room on it. Because it doesn't make sense to me why then, if God doesn't care, why it would create us or sustain us or just even allow us to continue to exist. None of that really makes sense to me. Um, but yeah, I think like compassion and love would be God, and therefore God would be love. Um, and yeah, I think that's the only like quality that I'm willing to say God has to be that. Um, these other ones, I just think like it makes sense, but it's not a deal breaker. So the second point, and I think God would be all powerful, at least in the sense that we understand it, like created the universe. You gotta be pretty powerful for that. But again, not a deal breaker. Don't really care about that one as much. I think God would know everything because I would think that all knowledge would originate with God. Like that just makes sense to me that the creator of the universe created all the knowledge in it. So I think he would just know all of it. But again, it's a 50-50. I wouldn't say it's a deal breaker. And then omnipresence, again, makes sense. Probably. Like, yeah, it would make sense if God is omnipresent. But would it make me disbelieve if God wasn't omnipresent? No, not really. It's not a deal breaker for me. So, the afterlife. So I think there's an afterlife. This too is just intuitive to me. Like it just makes sense. It just seems so obvious to me that there is that I can't explain it other than it's obvious. But I hope every person goes to heaven and we just laugh at our earthly problems, right? I, everyone, I don't care. I don't want anyone to suffer for eternity. I don't like suffering, at least like unnecessary suffering. Um, so some type of understanding of the harm that people did to others, though, I think I would like, hey, you put me through hell, and you should also understand what you did, stuff like that. In NDEs, near-death experiences, they explain this like a life review, where you are kind of put in the perspective of other people and you understand how you hurt them. And instead of God judging you, it's you judging yourself, which I like. I can't say that that's what happens, but it's just what I like and that's what I hope for. Um, I actually am influenced a lot by near death experiences. So if you want to understand kind of what I think more, I would go to those. Their testimonies and all their similarities are just, really moving to me and kind of evidential for me. They act as evidence for me. Especially like there's a lot where the people are actually documented that they died. They were clinically dead if they're at a hospital or something like that. Um, and that they were above their body, and then they came back and they asked the doctors, they said, hey, why did you do this? Or you said this, and the doctors are like stunned. Again, people could be making those all up, but There's actually a lot of good books on this that are well documented. So I would look at into NDEs and stuff like that to get a better understanding, especially because like there's all these people who have NDEs. They don't want to come back to life. They want to stay in the place that they went to because they are just overwhelmed with a feeling of love and that they're cared for and that they're seen and stuff like that. And it's crazy because there's even like parents who have young kids and they don't want to come back. They know that their kids will be okay. And to me, that's like the craziest thing because I think like the biggest human connection is between a parent and their child. Like I don't think it gets any deeper than that. So to say that you didn't want to come back, that that's powerful. Um, so there's also like some quotes that influence my thinking on God and the afterlife. One is by Marcus Aurelius in his book Meditations. So in the second book, there's an 11th like point that he makes, like a little quote that he says. But this is a paraphrase version of it. He said, "The gods would never subject you to harm." And then he went on later. If there were anything harmful on the other side of death, they would have made sure that the ability to avoid it was within you. And that again, that just like makes sense. Like, duh. Like, of course they would. Why wouldn't they? Like, your parents tell you not to do things like touch the hot stove because they care about you and they don't want you to get hurt. So God or the gods would do that too, right? And that just gets me to the point is like, if it was important to know, like you would know, right? Like we all know that 2 plus 2 equals 4. Is that really important? Not really. But if the knowledge of God was is important, we would know it too. So either it isn't important to know or it is, and you will know eventually. So that just makes sense to me. And it's just like going off those quotes, trying to like showcase All Might, like it's just intuitively obvious to me, is like a deduction argument. So premise one, God wants you and cares about you. I think that's true. Premise two, a being who cares about you wants what's best for you. Again, true. And to me, like that just makes sense. Premise three, heaven is better for you than hell. Again, makes sense to me, right? It's better to be loved and not suffer than to suffer for eternity. So conclusion is God wants you in heaven. Now if we take this conclusion, right, and just bring it down here to start another argument. God wants you in heaven. Yep, we made that true. We found that to be true. Premise two, God does what he wants. Kind of seems obvious again, just yeah. So and then the conclusion is God gets you into heaven. Like this is just it's just intuitively makes sense to me. I don't know how to explain it any further. And those are my thoughts on God and the afterlife.